All right, we got a couple of these I got to tear down. I'm gonna start doing a series of videos on how to do what I do. Um, Tearing down the furniture. It's not a lot of tools involved in it. This is a simple little barrel back chair with the buttons in it. Um, as you can see, this is not actually. I wouldn't call this tufted. This is actually stitched and sewn in. It looks like it's diamond pleated, but it's not. Um, Pretty much what they do is they pinch it and make a sew seam where there's not really one. But anyway, we're gonna get through this. And they also cut some off the bottom of the legs, so it would sit closer to the ground. So I'm gonna have to alter the skirt to either bring it up or shorten the skirt once we get all of this done. And this seat, we're gonna do some work on the seat before we give it back to them too, because this thing is dead flat on both sides. And it's not that it's dead flat from over time. Looking at it, I unzipped it, opened it up when I first brought the piece to the house, and it's it was bought like that. It's never had a crown in it at all. So we're gonna take this old rusty piece of furniture and make something brand new out of it. But let me go over the tools real quick. This is just about everything I'll need, unless you've got to screw the legs to unbolt them from the bottom on some pieces. This is all you're going to need. This I use maybe once a month when I've got something that I really need to actually clamp on and pry off. That's the only time I ever use this, but I get it just in case. Same thing with this. Sometimes you get these staple guns that the tongue that actually shoots the staple out sticks out a little bit, and what it does, it pushes the staple inside of the wood, and you can't get it out with the staple puller so much. So what I do is I come down the edge of it and actually cut the fabric where the staple line is, and then when I recut the fabric, put the new fabric on the chair, I just make it a little bit longer to make up for the distance of what I cut it off. And then I'll take my pliers and just roll it. I'll grab a hold of it and roll it, and it actually pulls and tears the fabric out from up under the staples. I'll hit it with a sander and everything's smooth again, just like brand new. But anyway, regular pliers. And what this is a Stanley screwdriver, and took a Dremel and you drill a little bitty slit right here in the middle. And this is the best staple puller I've been doing this for 30 years. This is the best staple puller I have came across. They make some that fit in the palm of your hand. They don't make a staple puller on the market that does not give you carpal tunnel syndrome. This actually has a little bit longer shank on it, and you can get it up under there and just, it gives you more prying power, and it's got a good grip on it. The ones that they sell are more like an awl. It has a round, it's rounded on the end, and you almost have to hold it like this, which is ridiculous to try to do any kind of work. This is my tack hammer, but I use it for everything. I used to have a small ball peen hammer, but this just, the weight of it, I can if you can tap and tack what you need on this furniture, you want the minimum amount of weight on the end of this, because you want to try to save your wrist and your hands, because after 30 years of doing this, there's days where man, I get nerve issues. I'll drop, if I'm drinking a can of Coke, it'll just let go on its own sometimes. So I learned later on that you can't just power your way through stuff. But anyway, this is very important for new people. Like I said, the razor blade, and this is in case, this is actually a tack puller for like nail head trim, things like that. But it also has a really good heavy end on it, and sometimes I use it for a pry bar. It's not made for that, but that's what I use it for. But anyway, that's my tools. It doesn't take a lot. All of this, 30 bucks maybe at the most for high-end vice grips and everything else. You can pay 30 bucks for some high-end vice grips, but for what I use them for, like I said, once, maybe twice a month I use those. That's it. You can get you the cheapest pair of vice grips known to man, and they work just as good for no more than what I use them. But that's it. Everything it takes to tear down any piece of upholstered furniture, it's just about right here. And I'm gonna put everything right here in front of me. This. You want to put the T for the top of the back. And I always do my furniture as if I'm sitting in it. So this is my right arm, this is my left arm. So this is right, front, left, front. And same thing on the outside back. I'm gonna write T for top and right, front, top, left, front, top. And this one, you can see the decking's already came loose on it. It has panels on the front, but I'm just gonna put a T on top of that. And that's really all we'll need. I can go ahead and get this out of the way. But see what I was saying? You can look at that. It's dead flat on the top, and it's dead flat on the bottom too. It needs it needed a little bit of love the day it was built. So everything that you're going to upholster, tear down, or anything goes pretty much in the same order. You're going to take the bottom off of it, and then you're going to come around, and if there's any panels or anything like this, you're going to take these panels off, and then you're going to take your outside arm, your outside back, and then your deck. And that's the order you go in. Oh, well, the inside also. Let me go back over that. The bottom, which is called the dust cover, the black bottom that's on it, you take that off. And then you're going to take any panels that you have like this off of it. And once you get all that cleared away, you're going to go with the outside arms, the outside back, and then the inside back and the inside arms, and then the deck. And then at that point, it's completely stripped down. And you repeat the process when you're putting it back together. The first thing you're going to do is put the deck on, and then you're going to put the inside back, which this is all one piece. So we'll put the inside back on, and then the outside back on, and then we'll put the skirt on, and we'll be done. And at that point, once we get both bodies built up, then we'll custom fit the seat, because that seat does not fit this chair either. It sticks out about this far, which once again, it's not from wear and tear. It came from the manufacturer like that. But we're going to take and make a seat that actually conforms to this chair and fits the chair the way it should have the day it came from the factory. For those that don't know, spent 16 years at Lazy Boy, worked in the engineering department, product development, creating a lot of the new stuff, but learned a lot. Left there for a few years, and went to a movie theater company. Traveled around the country installing silver screens and 3D movie projectors. And sometimes there's spiders. Sometimes there's interesting looking. I've never seen one like that. Catch you later, buddy. But installed movie projectors, sound systems. We did all kinds of general maintenance, electrical work. We did tile, carpet, worked on popcorn poppers all over the country. And did that for a few years, and got ready to go back home. Made a phone call, and I thought about going back to Lazy Boy, but ended up found another company named John Richard, and went back to the same work, but for a different company. And I think I worked at John Richard for 13 years, working in the upholstery division, and ended up I was over the upholstery division when they decided to close it down and move it to North Carolina, which is the nation's capital as far as furniture production. North Carolina is #1 in the United States of America. And before I get too far on this, let me flip this around so you can see. It's got these little spindle legs on them, and they're kind of in my way. So, and needless to say, once I get ready to put my new black bottom on, these have to come off anyway. So maybe a lot of these, there's a T-nut on the bottom side of a block, and this screws into the T-nut, and you've got this, the block, and the T-nuts on the bottom, so it compresses. And a lot of your furniture, this is how the leg is put on. More and more commonly, when they ship these to the furniture stores, more people are putting zippers in the bottom of these, the black bottom. You unzip the bottom of it, and there's a bag in there, and it'll have the 4 legs in the bag, and that way the bottom of it's flat. And when they ship these, they'll ship them bottom to bottom, and you can get several more. A lot of this stuff comes from China, and this type of furniture. But once it gets on the container, you can put quite a few more on the container just by taking these legs and putting them inside of the chair. But that's the legs. And also, one other thing, when you're redoing furniture like this, if you've got, I've had several people that wanted them lowered, several people that wanted them raised up. At this point, this is a very common shank that's on a lot of your legs. You can go on websites and buy longer or shorter legs that will screw right into this. The same tapered leg, or you can go with a square leg. A lot of different styles, but you can go longer or shorter at this point, and I could just adjust the skirt longer on, what you wanted, and more or less custom fit the piece of furniture to you, as opposed to being stuck with the same height as normal. Well, as not necessarily normal. Normal is whatever you wanted. That, is normal to you. But you're not necessarily always stuck with the same height that the manufacturer dictates, because there's industry standards that people use. But I got 2 of these I've got to get done this week, and then behind this, and these go to a lady in Cleveland, Mississippi. I got kind of behind. I got involved with some other people in Cleveland that own a couple restaurants, and I had to stop what I was doing on individual pieces to do. Yeah, that had been roughed up for a while there. We're just going to tear that off and be done with it. But I got involved with some folks over in Cleveland that have some restaurants, and I've been doing the restaurant booths for a couple months, and I've been as many of those done as I can. Now let me show you what this is. In the factory, they're going to have these blocks. This is called a block. They're going to have the blocks sewn to the actual skirts, and all this is sewn together. They push all of it down, center it up, and just tack it on. When I put this back on, I don't do that because sometimes when you get these, your stripes won't line up. Things don't line up. If there's a stripe, a plaid, a pattern, or something like that, I like to be able to move each panel individually. So what I'll do is I'll center up each panel, staple it on, get my back centered up, staple it on, and do them all individually, and then put the blocks on, because the blocks you can't really see. They're just there so that, that little gap in between the two skirts, you've got something back there. So it doesn't necessarily have to line up with anything. But I like to do them individually. That way you can really custom fit the piece instead of trying to, as fast as humanly possible in a factory. And when I rebuild all the furniture, I'm not under that, got to do 15 a day, quota. But I just get him behind. Really what I'm doing is coming in behind this welt cord right here. And the welt cord is strong enough to where it can take the pressure without ripping or tearing or coming apart. And it helps me pop this whole thing off a lot quicker. So I'm not trying to get behind there and actually pry staples. When I pry on that welt cord, the staple just comes with it. In most cases. Sometimes I'll come across some of these frames, and they'll be made out of redwood. What is that? I don't know. couple bugs. And that redwood is hard as a brick, and the staples will just pop. They won't even really come out. And I ended up with a bunch of little prongs sticking out all over it, and I have to go back over it with a I've got a grinder and smooth all that out. And it doesn't take long, but man, I've come across a bunch of bad work from other upholsterers where I've had pieces that's been reupholstered 3 or 4 times. I've had pieces from back in the 1800s, you know, that have been, geez, they've been redone multiple times. And every time I have to go in there and tear out stuff that other people left in the chair that probably would have took 30 seconds to just do it the right way, and they just don't have it in them. And it's aggravating. I got a couple staples that didn't come out with the welt. There we go. And once you get this thing loose, you can usually pop it just like that. And then what I'll do is, there we go, there's our skirt. And I just take everything, stick it in the pile, and I go back over this to make sure that I don't have any fabric. There we go. You want to get all your staples out because, number one, they're old rusty metal, and you don't want to get snagged and have to go to the doctor because you ripped your finger open and you have to go get a tetanus shot. And golly only knows what is growing on some of these chairs. Because I've had people, you know, say, hey, I got a nice looking chair, and they'll bring it to the house to get it reupholstered. They'll go pay for some high dollar fabric to go on the chair, and come to find out they found it on the side of the road and they like the style of the frame. And I had some chairs. I've had more than one, but I have one in particular. I had to cover the chairs up with a tarp and leave them outside of the shop and air out for almost 2 weeks. They smelt like maybe she had found them at the garbage dump, but once they got aired out, it wasn't a whole lot to it. But we went over what she wanted with them and how she wanted to redo them. And there wasn't a lot to it. There's some frame issues I'm gonna have to fix on this one. There's a couple pieces. There's a block right here. See, this is another thing we run into. Let me flip it over so y'all can see it. This right here is the block that makes up this arm. That it bolts there and comes all the way out here and bolts to another piece of wood right here, and that makes the whole front post. And that thing right there is split in half. And this block back here and this block are supposed to be touching. There should be something connecting through here. There should be something drilled through here into this block, and there's not on either side. This block is actually split in half right here, so there's gonna have to be some frame work done on these also. But like I said, there's a lot of folks ask me all the time why you charge what you charge. Look, it's a roundabout figure for most of it, but I'm gonna be honest, you never know what you're gonna get into when you get into some of this stuff. And some of it is just, it looks good on the outside, and then when you get it, it looks like monkeys has been jumping on it and rhinoceros has been flopping down on it, and half the wood's busted and broken, and you just can't see all that stuff when you first get it. Normally I would go on ahead and pop those front posts off, those caps, but since I got it turned upside down, on ahead and pull all these staples off the bottom. Now I've got 2 of these. Now this one I'm going to use for my pattern. You always want to try, if you got multiple pieces, you want to try to use the first one as the pattern. That way you get all your pieces. And once you do, I've got a tool that they came out with a few years ago, and it has a little flat blade on it, and I can actually pick this up and I can cut that thing on and actually come around here and slice all that off, and it'll pop all of these off and then come back and hit the top of that wood with a grinder. And man, there's spiders all in this thing. They're running everywhere. But I like to pull the first one by hand because I can tell really, because sometimes that thing will actually snag the fabric and it messes it up. And I want to make sure I've got, a good amount of fabric to where I feel comfortable that I can use this as a pattern. Because if this one gets torn up, or I look like maybe they cut too much out of it and it's not quite right, I'll pull that piece off of the next one, and that way I have a good pattern for the outside back and stuff like that. I just want to make sure I got good pattern pieces before I break off into it with that grinder, because it's quick, it's fast, it saves your wrist, but man, it'll pop all out. It chews this thing to pieces. It is not meant to be graceful. But see, like this is a lot of, I can probably shoot probably 4 or 5 staples per second when I'm putting things back together. It's less of a finger pull and more like it's a nervous twitch, kind of, is how I shoot my staples in. A lot of people try to hold it to it and kind of force the staple in. There's enough air pressure in them pneumatic staple guns. If it's just touching the surface of this fabric, it's going to shoot flush, and it's going to shoot tight. It's going to hold it. And all those years at Lazy Boy, I had several folks help me out, but I about starved to death, because over there, just like a lot of your furniture companies, you got paid by the piece. And the more pieces you did, the more money you made. So when I first started, I didn't know nothing about nothing, and I was about to starve to death. But after some of those old guys started helping me out and explained to me how to, yep, this has been reupholstered before. There's up under this fabric right here is furniture tacks. There's nails where you can see there was a yellow fabric that used to be on this, and they left the furniture tacks in it, which, as long as you don't shoot your staple gun, as long as your new staples don't hit it, it'll be all right. If you hit that with a staple gun, it's going to curl out. But yeah, there's furniture tacks all in these blocks too. You heading to work? Are you coming? She don't want to get in front of the camera. Come on. Seriously? Yep. Oh, keys. Yeah. My bad, I forgot. Say hey. Hey. Love you.
Love you.
Bye, sweetie.
I love. Have a good day.
You too. But yeah, it'll take roughly an hour probably just to tear this thing down. And when I go to tear down the next one, it's probably 15 minutes maybe. It is insanely faster. That's the Mrs. She is off the work and camera shy. But for anybody that's been following me that's not from around here. I am based out of the Mississippi Delta. We live in the great state of Mississippi, and oh my goodness, yeah, there's probably a half-inch gap where the wood has busted open. It's gonna take some work to get this thing back together, to get it together right anyway. Um, we live in one of the poorest states and the poorest part of the poorest state in the entire United States of America. It's a fantastic place to live. There's absolutely nothing to do. If you don't like hunting and fishing, but if you enjoy eating, man, we got some of the best restaurants and some of the best chefs in the United States of America. People say, oh, them fat folks from down there in Mississippi, they diabetic, unhealthy. I get tickled because I got some folks that I know that are from up north. We got a lot of family up towards Detroit. And I got a lot of friends that have family from up north moved down here. And man, you looking at about 40 pounds. Come on down here. We'll feed you. You got to drive 40, 50, 60 miles just to go do anything to wherever the closest kind of metro type area. You know, we're about, I guess, about 2 hours from Jackson. If you want to go to Jackson and go shopping, or you can go to South Haven. It's a little bit closer than Jackson, not much. It's nice. They building on. There just ain't a whole lot of big metropolitan type areas here in the great state of Mississippi. But we like it. It's simple. It's quiet. That's the main thing. We moved out here in the country 4 or 5 years ago. You'll be able to hear my dogs here in a minute. We got some old English bulldogs. They don't know I'm out here. Anytime their mama leaves the house, they all start to howling for a little bit. They all let everybody know how depressed and sad they are. And then they all lay down and go to sleep. That's the bulk of what they do. Eat and sleep. But yeah, I've been doing this for a really long time. Man, I can't thank Lazy Boy enough. They ended up sitting, golly, that corner block's busted off. I'm gonna have to redo this whole thing on the inside, the framework of it. But sent me to school, no charge. We just had to sign a contract saying we'd work for them for X amount of years, whatever it was. This thing's in terrible shape. Okay. But they sent me to school, and for engineering on how to create, build, upholster, design furniture. I mean, it's a lot to it, but you know, there's just not a lot of schools out there that teach you things like this. You know, everybody knows you can go to college, be a licensed electrician, or engineer, this, that, and another. But furniture design, you know, they've got classes on design, but they teach you more like clothes fashion. And that's another thing you'll notice. The furniture industry, the fabrics that they use run real close in line, and you can see with the apparel industry, that's what that fabric used to look like. That's the colors, original colors. It's a big difference. But whatever's fashionable in the clothing industry will be good for a few years, maybe 3 at the tops, and then you start seeing them in the furniture industry. They'll be a little heavier, you know, because there's a little more wear and tear on furniture, but it'll be the same patterns, same colors. If there's some cool new color out there that, you know, some new fashion designers using. You can rest assured within 3 years it'll be on furniture too, and it'll be all over the place in one market. It's like everybody picks a color and that's what they go with. There's your tack strips. Most of these you can when I'm tearing down furniture, which these are, you know, I could probably straighten these out, but I ain't going to. That's what they use a lot of times to hold the back on. But sometimes you can reuse them, but them ain't worth it. Ain't worth it. All right, so I got that. Got that. I'm gonna go on ahead. There's gonna be 2 more tack strips on the sides. I'm gonna go ahead and tear them off since I got a good angle on them right here. You want to do as much as you can without flipping and flopping this thing around. Normally I would have went ahead and popped them panels off, but since I got it upside down, see that's a little bitty one. What they do is they come in long lengths and they'll cut them in shorter lengths depending on how long they need them. But that's called a tack strip. But like I said, 16 years at Lazy Boy, 13 years at John Richard, and I've been doing upholstery work at home, doing custom built furniture, designing stuff for folks, and you know, it's just not a lot of places where you can go and say, hey, I want this, and they have exactly that, or you need an ottoman or a footstool or something that goes in the room that needs to be a specific size. I'm that guy. You know, people will call and say, can you do this ottoman this size, this high, with buttons, without buttons? You know, we want this type of pleat and that type of pleat, you know, skirt, no skirt. We'll sit down, sketch it out, and custom build furniture that you can't go to the store and buy. You know, pieces that no one else on planet Earth has. I've got pieces like that all over the country. And it's been fun. I have enjoyed it. Like I said, I've been doing furniture and designing it and building it and upholstering it for over 30 years now. And it's kind of funny, you look back on it. Being the guy that about starved to death because I wanted a different route. I didn't like what I was doing, and wanted to try something different. Brother, this was different. Let me show y'all something. See all these nails? That was under this. The only way that could have got under there, this used to have fabric on it. So this has already been reupholstered once, but look at that gap. That wood should be touching. This wood from here to here, there's a split. And then look over here. I mean, that's wider than that screwdriver is. This and this should be touching. All the way to here needs to be closed up. And from this block to this block should be screwed into this one to lock it in, and it's not on this block or that block. And this one's good. This one has a split coming down it, so I've got a good bit of framework. And look right here on the front. Look at that. It's wide enough. I can take a screwdriver in that hole too. So what I'll do is I'll open this up as much as I can possibly open it up and get me some glue in there. And then I'll put my bar clamps on here, clamp everything up, and I'll pilot bore some holes, put some loose screws in there with a heavier thread on them that'll really hold it, let it dry, and then by the time I get ready to upholster this, all the glue will be dried and set up and everything. Because once I get it torn down, I'm going to work on the frame, and then I'll start cutting and sewing and getting all of that ready. And by the time I get everything cut and sewn for both chairs, because I would imagine if this frame looks like this, the other frame's the same way. And I'll get all this fixed and be good as new. But like I said, once I get everything off the bottom that I can. I'm gonna pop these panels off, and you just kind of wiggle them. They hear me out here talking. They think I'm talking to somebody, and they really love people. And you just kind of wiggle it. You don't want to. You don't want to pop one end open and pop the other end open, because a lot of times these are wood panels, and you'll split it. There we go. What a new world. I don't know. I don't know if you can read. There's something wrote on the back side of that panel. There's no telling what that's made out of. There we go. There we go. Now they make a tack that can go on the back side of that, and you just nail them in. But these were actually nailed in with a pin nail. There we go. Get all those pulled out. There we go. Make sure that's all of them. Huh. That's 6 on one. Oh, they're inside the thing still. Okay. I was gonna say we had 6 on one side and 3 on the other, but the other 3 are still in the wood. There we go. And there's the front caps. Now, we're gonna come right here where these front caps were and take all these staples right here off. But if you're looking, if this is something you're looking at wanting to do or give it a shot, the process is the same on every single piece of furniture. And what I did when I first started redoing furniture, I got me a notepad, and I wrote on everything, on every single piece. And I still have a habit of writing on every single piece of furniture, on where the top is, where the bottom is, what part is what, the outside arm, the outside backs, the inside arm, the inside back, the decks, any kind of wing filler, your welt cord. I'd even have a piece of tape, and I would tape around. There's not a piece of welt cord here. Well, like the one that was around the top of the skirt. I would have took a piece of tape, the masking tape, and wrote on there welt cord and how long the welt cord was and where it went, and I would have wrote all that on there and everything. And I would stack everything as it came off of the chair, and I knew if I replaced everything, what I would do is I would have this pile over here, and I would start off with my deck, because your deck's always going to be the last thing you take off and the first thing you put on. So as I did my deck, I would pull it off, I would go do my deck, put it on, and then I would come do my inside arm and put it on, and then on the inside back, put it on, and then the outside back, and then the arms. And, as it came off of the pile, I would do them one at a time. And that's really, because when I was learning how to do upholstered furniture at Lazy Boy, I knew how to do their furniture, but there's so many different styles and designs. They've been building upholstered furniture for over 100 years now, and there's so many different ways and techniques of going about tearing stuff down and rebuilding stuff and the cutting, the sewing, the stitching, and especially when you get into the point of furniture from United States versus the furniture from Europe, completely different. It's, you know, like those metal tack strips I took off of this. A lot of your older furniture that you had in Europe didn't use those things. They actually hand stitched it, and a lot of them still do that to this day. And it's a little more time consuming, but as in my opinion, if you're looking at furniture and you want quality, really nice quality furniture, European furniture is hard to beat. I'm not going to say it's always the best, bar none, but you're looking for 8-way hand tied, coil springs in the seat, you know, cotton, real cotton, not polyfab cotton. They don't use the metal tack strips. They actually line everything up and hand stitch it. It's just, it's more. I mean, you're going to pay for it, but there it is. There's that gold fabric. I figured I'd run into it somewhere. That's the gold fabric that was on here originally, because there's the furniture tacks that's holding it on. It's about to rust. It's almost crumbling. It's so old. That's the original fabric. So what I'm putting on here is going to be fabric number 3. But the difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing is, now like on the bottom, there's no need in pulling out those nails on the bottom because it's just, on the dust cover. But this inside back is, there's no way I'm leaving that on. It's coming out. All that's coming out. And there'll be cotton. Yep. Yeah, there's cotton in there. I'll leave the cotton batting and everything in there if it's still good. If not, I'll redo the cotton batting on it. And we'll just have to see what they've got and see what shape it's in. Because more than likely, if there's any issues with the frame, I may have to take this thing all the way down straight to the frame just so I can redo all of the broken wood and pieces on it. And there we go. There's our outside back. We got a couple of staples I need to pull out. And you can see this is what they had their buttons tied to, which is different. And since I've already got it turned up this way, I'm going ahead and pull these out. Well, if I can get that staple. There we go. Alrighty. Let me grab a cup of coffee right here. Uh-oh. I'm about to run out. But, a lot of people look for, I guess, different ways. It's a lot of people, they think, oh man, I felt it wiggle in my hand. Ooh, yeah. Yep, it's going to come all the way down. It's the top of this rail is busted. Wow. And that's the bad thing about some of this stuff. Some of it you get in there and everything's great. It comes down, you tear it apart, fix it, put it back together, boom, no problem. And then sometimes you come across stuff like this. This thing is coming apart in my hand. I don't know if you can hear that. Wow, great. But you never know what you're going to come across. Sometimes you have easy days, and I'm telling you, pieces like this make you really appreciate the easy days. Because it's going to take a good bit longer to get this thing back to the customer than what I had originally anticipated. But it is what it is. But what I was saying was, you got a lot of people that think, work from home means on a computer. I mean, I work from the house. My upholstery shop's here. I do all my cutting, sewing, tear down, reupholstery, everything right here at the house. And it has its advantages and disadvantages. Number one, I'm always at work. But if something comes up and I need to take off, I can. But people that are looking for like a home-based business, this is a really good one to get into, because I've never been, this is 30 years, I've never been without work. If anything, I have more work than I can possibly do at some points. It's just now I do, because as you get a little better and you learn a little more, you can open yourself to more business in different areas. And the best thing to do, in my opinion, is if this is something you want to try to do, and you want to try to kind of see what your capabilities are as far as physically being able to do it. If you see some furniture on the side of the road and it looks like something that you yourself may want to give a shot at reupholstering, pick it up and see what you can do with it. A lot of people that I have seen will reupholster furniture and then resell it at these consignment shops, or even at yard sales, different things. You see a lot of people painting cabinets and painting little end tables and stuff like that. But reupholstering furniture is actually a more lucrative option, because you can sell it for cheaper than brand new, but it sells for a lot more than a nightstand. You know what I mean? And there's different avenues. I can take a piece of furniture that was built by, a low-end furniture company. You take that thing, fix it up, clean it up, put better foam, a little better fiber on it, give it some poof, give it some love so, it's not flat. Work on the cushion a little bit. Put a little more oomph in that cushion. Give it some crown. Make it comfortable. Put a decent fabric on it, something that's a little more trendy. And you can take something that you found on the side of the road and resell it, and it looks brand new, basically, because outside of the frame, it is brand new. And, make a decent amount of money and learn how to do this in the process. And I did similar to that for a long time. When I first said, you know what, I think I want to give my shot at doing upholstery on at the house as a side job. I actually would, when I first started doing this, I did it for free. They bought the parts, they bought the foam, they bought the fabric, with the understanding that, I was, learning how to do this at work and at home. And they had enough trust in me to say, you know what, I'm sure. And it started off with small pieces, obviously. You know, can you redo my bar stools? And I'm gonna tell you what, round bar stools are the hardest thing to upholster in the world. I hated those things. And people would say, well, this is kind of easy. No, it's small. It's not easy. I hated bar stools. The worst thing in the world to upholster is something that is round. Because there's nowhere to fold anything at. There's no way to hide a mistake. The math has to be right on the pattern. And that's another thing that people don't take into account is the amount of math that goes into stuff like where these buttons go on this fabric in position of the back itself to make the diamond pattern. You have to know where each one of those buttons needs to go on the face of this fabric, then sew it, because what you do is you make a dot and you pinch it and you sew it, and then you pinch it and sew it, going one way and then the other way, and then that's where your button goes, is where those two pieces meet. There's a huge amount of math that's involved in that. I used to do custom headboards, which I still do custom headboards, but I designed quite a few headboards for John Richard and boards that they used to make. You have to take into account the depth of the foam and how far it goes down and the curve of the pull of the fabric. When you pull the fabric down, the fabric stretches. You got to take into account the amount of stretch. And then I'd sit there on the AutoCAD program and draw out the pattern on the computer on how far each of those dots needed to be to pull the button through. And it's a lot that goes into it, which once you do it 15, 20 times, I had mathematical calculations based on the size of the diamond that they wanted and based on the thickness of the foam that they had and the stretch of the fabric. And I would just key all that in, and that gave me what I was looking for. But they didn't have a school that taught that. You just had to be good enough at math and good enough at understanding fabrics to be able to get it all knocked out and cleaned up and fixed up and look good every time. Because most of the time in those headboards, people almost always ordered them in the fabric it was shown in. So I didn't have to guess at a lot of new fabrics. Now sometimes I did, in which I would have to go back to the drawing board. Needless to say, I'm right on the side of the road. That's a fuel truck. It's not a lot of traffic down this road right now because they're working on the bridge down the road. So there's a detour, but it's way, way out of the way. But the folks that live on the other side of the bridge that are coming this way, there's no choice. You got to go way around to get to where you're going. But at least right now, there's not a whole lot of traffic. So I figured I'd come out here in the sunshine, because normally I'd tear this down in the shop, but I don't know what it is. During the summertime, I get outside, and honestly, I feel like if I ain't sweating, I ain't working, and I enjoy getting out here. I think about those big Greek guys sitting in the sauna, making deals and sweating with a room full of guys in the sauna. And look at here, I'm out here doing it for free. I don't have to pay nobody. Just sweating. Welcome to Mississippi. That's what everybody says. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. Yeah, it's the heat. Because it could be humid in the wintertime and it don't matter. So they can take that squirrel and run it up somebody else's tree. It's the heat. I seen a lady the other day on YouTube complaining about the heat in Europe, that it was unbearable, could not stand it. It was absolutely ridiculous. And come to find out, it was a, a warm, brisk 68 degrees. Or what was it? Yeah, it was 68 degrees. And I thought, what are you even talking about? I went outside and my drawer stuck to my butt immediately. And she's over here complaining because it's 68 degrees because it's humid there. And I thought, humid? Lady, you have no clue. I had some people come from Arizona one time, and they left Arizona, and it was 102, 103, something like that, when they got out of the car. Now they got here, pulled up a driveway, stepped out of the car, and they they looked like they was melting. And they looked at us and said, "How do y'all live here?" I don't forgot what it was, 80 something degrees here. I said, "It's not even hot. Wait until summertime gets here." But they were gonna stay for a few days. They ended up staying one day and then they left and they went to Las Vegas. But the folks around here, they're used to that wet heat. Makes you sweat. My wife and them went to Las Vegas, and it's a dry heat. Like they said, you can feel the moisture coming up out of your skin. You can feel your skin starting to dehydrate like a piece of roast beef, like a piece of beef jerky. Just some church's chicken sitting up in that window with that lamp light on it, just looking sad and crusty. They was walking around with a chapstick. Most of the time we use it around here, they'll put it on your lip. They was rubbing it on their face. And for anybody wondering, yes, this is an appropriate amount of staples. It's actually fewer staples in this than it is in a lot of furniture that I tear down. This right here is what gets you wrist. Once you get my age, been doing it this long, this right here, tough on you. But with that little bit longer shank, man, it's way better than what they actually have for, an upholstery tool. I think what they do is they make those staple pullers in the way they do so that when you're in a manufacturing facility, you don't get paid for pulling staples, you get paid for shooting staples. And I think what they do is to incentivize them people to not make mistakes, they give them that stupid little staple puller, and you'll figure out real quick how to do this the right way. Because you pulling on that staple puller like that, man, it'll cripple you. All right, got all that. Got all that to right there. Let me show you what we got right here. That's all cotton. And what we'll do is we'll come back over the top of this cotton with another layer of cotton, and because this looks like it's not breaking down, it's just compacted. And to keep from putting another piece of, taking all this off and then putting new on, I like to leave this on here if I can, because it's already firm and stiff and it's contoured to that shape. So I like to leave this on here and just put another layer of cotton on top of that. That way the materials are the same and everything comes out better, I think. Feels better and it lasts longer. I guess I've never had anybody complain about me doing it that way. So, because a lot of times what you have, and I'll tell you something else, a lot of times what you have now is they call this cotton, it's not cotton, it's moat. It's cotton mixed with, if you look, there's black specks in there. That's cotton bolls. This is what comes after, during the process of the cotton being filtered. This is like secondary extract. The cotton doesn't have all these black flakes in it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but see all these black flakes? That's pieces of sticks and stems and things like that that a lot of these the furniture builders have. Which this is mostly cotton, but it has a lot of imperfections, impurities, and stuff like that in it. It doesn't hurt anything. As you can see, it's still holding up over time. It's still comfortable. It's still good and firm. But what I put over the top of this is pure white cotton. It doesn't have all these impurities. It's a little more, but honestly, if you pay 15% more and you get good, solid, steady cotton, and you don't have these little things in here to kind of wiggle and break down the fibers, and it's pure cotton over the top of it, you just get a better seat. It feels better and it holds up better over time. So like I said, this is already compacted, real dense. So what I'm gonna do is because this used to be real fluffy. When they first put it up here, this is real fluffy, it's soft, but it's compacted. I'm gonna leave it and then cover it back up with actual pure white cotton. And this thing is gonna be good. Once I get done with it, get the frame fixed, get everything back together, it'll be good for another 20 years. But I'm rebuilding this. I'm gonna be honest, what I did was I had a customer that called about a Ralph Lauren sofa one time, wanting to know if I could reupholster it. And I said, sure, I can reupholster anything. I went over that frame, the way it was stitched, the construction of it, the contents of it, the staples that was used, everything, the thickness of the wood that was used, everything with a fine tooth comb, wrote it all down. And that's what I use to start the basis of designing my furniture. Those Ralph Lauren sofas that, I don't even know if Ralph Lauren still sells sofas, but those sofas that I redid for that lady are the basis of the construction of every piece of furniture I did after that date. So basically what you're getting when I redo a lot of this stuff, you're getting Ralph Lauren pieces and they last. Never had a complaint. Really good pieces of furniture. There's things that I can't do that, are in the Ralph Lauren sofas like this. This is what's called a sinuous spring seating system. And it's because of the zigzag, people call them zigzag springs, but it's sinuous springs is what these are called. Ralph Lauren has the 8-way hand tie covered up with the burlap, and then it's got cotton over the top of that, but I can't do that here. But as you can see, this has the cotton over the top of the sinuous spring, so it's really, really close to the seating you would get from a Ralph Lauren sofa. And I have had a lot of these that were hand tied, but if you can see, this has a spring here and a spring here, and there's a metal bar that connects each one of these here, 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 and here, and it makes a solid line of tension. And when you sit on this, these springs allow it to breathe up and down a lot. Like you get the feeling of those sinuous springs without the actual cost of it. That's what it boils down to. It's expensive to have those 8-way hand tie springs put in something, and this is a less expensive alternative and still get the same ride. So anyway, like I said, it's close, but it's not the same thing, but it's really, really close. There we go. And then we'll come through here and pull all of this off. You know what? I think this is strong enough to where I can actually pull it off and the staple will come with it. Yep. Nope. The staple stayed in the wood, which is fine. I just need to make sure that the fabric doesn't rip, and that's not happening. Once you feel the fabric start to rip, you just pull the staple. Yeah, you can hear it popping when it comes out. That's in there. And these are actually really good staples because most staples nowadays, this piece isn't that old, but it's at least 20 years old. At least 20 years old. Because they don't make staples like this anymore. Most staples nowadays, they break. That right there, that staple will not come out of a modern chair. When you staple it into these hardwoods, into the side of the grain, they won't come out. They pop. They break. And I have to go back over there and clean all that up and get all those little prongs. Because basically what you do is you go from having a staple in the wood to two prongs sticking straight up. So when you're bringing fabric over, you're constantly scraping, and it'll cut your hand all to pieces. It'll tear the fabric. So what I have to do is go back over all of it with that grinder and just hit it real quick with that grinder. It does not take but just, a half a second of just, and it's done. But without that, it just makes a big mess. It messes up the fabric, messes up your hand. There we go. Y'all can hear the birds out there this morning. That's why I like working outside right there. It's peaceful out here. I know it's hot right now, but that's because there's no wind blowing. Most of the time there's a wind blowing through here from one end to the other, from the north to the south. And it's actually really nice out here. It's just, I said this morning, I said, you know what? I'm going to go on ahead and start shooting some of these videos on how to do this and, kind of what to expect on different pieces of furniture. Needless to say, if I had, 10 of these to do, I'd just do the one video on the first one and not do any more. But I do so many varying different pieces of furniture every single day that I could shoot 2 or 3 videos a week on this, on, how to do certain things, how to do some pieces and not the others. And that's it. Good deal. Okay, the whole top upper ring is taken apart. Oop, let me get that. Man, I hate these frames are messed up. Now what we got to do now is this staples up here, and this piece of fabric goes across here and under this wood and comes back out. So what we're going to do is we're going to unstaple the bottom part of this piece right here that actually comes back out down here, and basically it wraps around. This is the frame and it pulls tight, and this is the inside back. So I got to unstaple here. I've already got this one up here, so I need to do it down here and pull it off, and this whole thing will just kind of pop out in my hand. But a lot of, how many times have you sat down in a piece of furniture and wondered, who created this? I was at Lazy Boy for 16 years. I wasn't in the engineering department that long. I was probably in the engineering department and creating furniture probably 10 years. And, you sit down with a sketch pad and a group of guys, and we would sit down, and there was 2 ladies in our department too. But we had one guy that designed the foam, and we had a guy that did the frames, a guy that did the fabric, and we had a lady that would sit down. And when I first started at Lazy Boy, all of their stuff was on it was hard copies. They actually sat down and traced. They would put the pattern on the fabric, trace it out, and cut it. And that's how they did it. Telling my age now. They don't do that anymore. There's computerized fabric cutters and stuff like that now. But when I first got there, we were transferring everything over to AutoCAD. So Lazy Boy sent me to school for AutoCAD. Learned how to do all that. And when I first got there, I was responsible for keying everything over from hard copies into AutoCAD. That way we could make solid models, because what we ended up doing was we had AutoCAD 3D, and we were putting everything into AutoCAD 3D. And then more and more people in the in our division was going to a program called SolidWorks. And if y'all have ever seen, I can't remember the name of the show, but it was a show that Jesse James had that does motorcycles. It's the same program he had that they used to use to design the custom wheels. That they use SolidWorks for that also. And there was a couple other, designers that you were seeing on TV that I noticed that they were using SolidWorks also. And we ended up going to SolidWorks too, but we had 3D models. We may have at Lazy Boy, we may have had this back post on 6 different pieces of furniture because I could take this back post and do a bunch of different things with it. It doesn't even have to be a barrel back; it could be a square back chair, all kinds of stuff. So once I had this 3D model piece, I never had to draw it again. I could go into the file, pull this piece out, and drop it into the new pattern, and boom, there it is. And we could actually pull in random pieces that from other chairs and other designs that we thought may fit, and we would use all of those pieces to make most of the new because this curved piece here's another thing. Most seats, there's a general seating depth on all pieces of furniture. So this piece from here to here, this piece, whatever, because the company logo's gone because it's been upholstered before and they didn't put the original logo back on it. I don't know whose chair this is, but this piece right here, I guarantee you, is on every barrel back chair that they have because the seating depth is going to be the same on every one of those chairs. So this piece, if you put it in AutoCAD and you make a solid, model out of it, you could pick it out of one piece, or you could go down through here and say, each piece has a part number. You can pull that part number, boom, drop it in there, and you don't have to draw it again. It's just in there. Same thing with the front rail. The piece that this piece nails to up here, most of your chairs are going to have the same width, side to side. So they would just drop that same front model in there. And it made the designing process so much faster. We could do furniture insanely faster because we were originally doing, when I first walked in the door, was walking up to a board and I had a big rope. What is that? You never know what you're going to find. How about some fingernail clippers? But we used to walk up to the board and there was this big long piece of pattern paper and we would pull it out over the board. The board was tilted slightly, and it was backlit, and we would sit down and sketch out what we were looking at doing, and behind the illuminated part of it were 1-inch squares. So we knew if we wanted it 26 inches wide or 36 inches tall, this huge board that was backlit had 1-inch squares. So I knew how wide I wanted it, and I would draw my line from here to here. And that's how we actually designed furniture when I first got to Lazy Boy, because this thing was probably 4 foot by 8 foot. It was about the size of a piece of plywood, and it was backlit. So no matter what we were building, even sofas, we would use that same board to do it. My dogs really want to meet y'all. they, they think I'm out here talking to somebody, and they want to make sure I'm all right. They are very protective. But I figured about an hour and a half to tear this down, and it's going to be a little bit more than that, but not much more. But goodness gracious, they shot staples in that like they was getting paid by royalties or something. Come on now, there we go. Good Lord. Alrighty, there we go. Okay, now this is actually hooked to the deck. but it's got to come off too. And I was trying to pull both of them at one time, and that's just not working. There we go. I'm just going to pull these out with the pliers. There we go. Now we're cooking. But that twisting, that rolling, after about 20 years of that, that's when your wrist starts hurting and you're hanging out and you're standing around your buddies by the bonfire drinking your Diet Coke, and then you drop it for no reason and you think, well, dang, I wonder what happened. It's nerve damage. I tell people all the time, if you want to be an upholsterer, you got to want to be an upholsterer. It ain't easy. It ain't something you're going to get up in the morning and say, woohoo. I mean, it is. I love doing it. I've been doing it my whole life, just about. For any amount of my life where I was worth a darn, I've been doing this. Now, there was a part of my life where I wasn't much worth for nothing, and I was doing random jobs, all kinds of stuff. I worked at Cotton Gin before, ran the sucker pipes. Let me see what else I did. What else did I do? I worked at Fred's Dollar Store for a while. It was a little department store. They about done shut all them down now. I think Fred went bankrupt. I don't even know if Fred's is open anymore. There's a bunch of empty Fred's stores around here. They were like Walmart's competition for a long time. And then one day Walmart just decided to be the biggest thing on planet Earth, around here anyway. And Fred couldn't compete. Okay, I got all that off. I got the side of that deck off too. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it on its side, on the other side, and undo that. But let me show you. See all of this at this point right now on this side. Once I pop these buttons, all of this will just pull in and I can just pull the whole thing out. The only thing really holding this on right now is the buttons. And once I get it all loose, then I'll pop the buttons and it'll slide off. That way it's not flopping all over the place. That's one good thing about chairs with buttons on it. You can leave it in there and it's not all in your way, because on most pieces of furniture that has a barrel back, if it doesn't have buttons, this thing's flopping all upside your head while you're trying to tear it down. Oh man, I hate that. Oh man, that thing is broke. But let me see if I can't flip this around so y'all can see. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. But look at that. That's completely broken. It's broken right there. And it's broken in 3 or 4 places right here. Somebody sat on this thing or something. I don't know. And broke the back. But the back's broke here, here. Man. We're going to get it though. We'll get it all together. But see, like this, if those buttons wasn't in here, that'd be flopped all over that away. But I'm going to start off with the pliers. I thought I was anyway. We're going to pop this deck loose. Now the front of this deck's going to be loose, but I still have, if I could get that off of there. Man. There we go. There we go. Let go. See, that's loose. But the only thing left holding that on is the man, come on. Look at that. Awesome. take the good with the bad, I reckon. Everything can't be sunshine and rainbows, but dang, everything ain't got to be hard neither. There we go. There we go. But as bad a shape as this is in, I still hadn't seen anything that isn't fixable. So that's good. There we go. Man. There we go. All right, I got that. Now we got to get the deck loose. As you can see right now. And you know, looking at how this thing was built and knowing that it's been reupholstered, man, I can't help but wonder if some of this wasn't broke when it was reupholstered last time, because you got things like this rail right here that's busted completely off, that if you pull this bottom rail tight enough this away, it'll close that gap up some. And if you pull this down tight enough, it'll push this in some, and you won't even know that rail's broke if you're sitting in this chair. But if anybody gets in it and starts rocking or twisting much in it, you run the risk of the structure of the chair being compromised to the point to where it will break with someone sitting in it. Cause it's an awful lot of broken pieces inside this frame. Oh my goodness. I found another broke rail. I'll show it to you once I get this deck off of here. It's the worst one. Good night. This chair is garbage. Honestly, this chair looks like something somebody pulled up off the side of the road. At this point, this is ridiculous. Look at this. There was too much stuff in the way and I couldn't see it. See that right there? Look at that. This whole rail is busted loose. But look at this. This rail goes right here. These dowel pins go in those holes right there. Look at your springs. That's ridiculous. That's all right. We about got it broke down. We'll get it. Even the dogs was crying about it. There we go. There we go. Alrighty. Now, we get to use the handy dandy razor blade. Now what I'm gonna do is come through here and cut these buttons off. go. Cut these off on the arm. There we go. Oh, one more. There we go. Alrighty, that should be oh, I missed one. Oh, huh. That one's different. I don't know what to do with my razor blade. I'm gonna use these handy dandy fingernail clippers to cut this string here. I say I am. I'm going to have to come in through this way. There we go. And the good Lord will provide. There we go. And that is that. And you can see there's the inside back. We're going to toss that over here. Then we're going to take this seat deck. Look at there. There's y'all a quarter. Then got a raise. There's the front deck. And there we go. Now there's staples holding this thing on. Oh no, it ain't. That's the nails from the original. This is the original cotton. So back when this was first put on, they didn't have staples. They had furniture tacks, and they're not round. The shank on them is square. I'm gonna have to get this out of the way to get in there so I can get my clamps and everything on this wood. So all this has got to come off. But I'm gonna peel it off and then roll it up. That way when I get ready to put it back on here, I can just roll it back on. You want to make sure you get all of those tacks out when you pull them out. You don't want to leave them in there and say, oh, I'll get them later. because you'll leave them in there, and then there they'll be, poking somebody in the back of the neck. Oh, wow. Goodness gracious. Yeah, it's a lot wrong with these chairs. I hope the next one's good. I really do. There's that little bit of breeze I was talking about. It just got cooled off pretty quick. It didn't cool off, it got cooler. My apologies. Yeah, this is one of those I don't want to say poorly designed because the frame itself, frame is designed. There's nothing wrong with the frame's design. It's they've got nails holding this thing together, and you just don't use nails doing upholstery on something that is going to be moving and flexing, and because nails work loose, just and even in your house, and even in that, in the construction of this, when you shoot those nails in there or hammer those nails in there, however this was put in there, you're beating on the frame, directly on the frame while you're building it, and it's more likely to be damaged just by building the thing, trying to construct it. It's crazy. I don't understand it. But anyway, we're gonna get her fixed up. Like I said, we're gonna make it good as new. Or in this case, it'll be better than new. There we go. We are almost all the way around. Man. Yep. This old girl gonna need a lot of love. Well, we're gonna get it. There we go. There's it. We can get all that cleaned up. Just like that. Just like that. On across the deck. I'll just leave that there. I think that'll be fine. We're gonna get the old blower out here and blow it off and help clean it up. Redo all of this. But yeah, this old thing right here has seen better days. And you know, just to look at it, to sit in it, you never would know that this whole back was busted. And like I said, this bottom here, that's all busted. This whole thing's torn to pieces. But I'm gonna go grab my clamps and a cold drink of water, some wood glue, and some screws. And even the places that aren't broke on this, like right here, none of my main shafts in the back are broke, but they're put in with nails. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna pry these nails up if I can. If I can't, I'm gonna leave them in there. But I'm gonna pilot bore a hole and I'm running screws into every. That way this thing's actually built right. And that's just the right thing to do. And I know whoever upholstered this before me, I guarantee you some of these are already here. They just ignored them and kept going. Because, you know, you wouldn't know this until you get into it. And once you get into it, you say, you know what? I didn't notice that they won't need it. And then there they go. But we're going to fix her up. And we'll holler at y'all later. Have a good one.